Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. Now I'm going to read Crandford chapter 8 True Friends. While Miss Mary went downstairs, tell mother I quietly packed up my letter and went to Signor Brunoni's logins. The seigneur was now well enough to leave Crandford, and before he disappeared, I needed an exact address for the Agar Jenkins and Chandra Bhadat. I then posted my letter to India and hurried back home. Mother, in tears now herself, pulled me into the kitchen. I'll never leave her, I won't. You may not know where you've got a good servant, I told her, but I know when I've got a good mattress. I've money in the saving bank, and I'm not going to leave Miss Maddie. What should I say? Miss Maddie needed this kind woman, but mother, I don't think Miss Maddie will even have enough money to buy your food. Not enough for food? Mother sat down on the nearest chair and cried aloud. Upstairs, Miss Maddie was very quiet and sad. We decided to ask my father to come and advise her. So I wrote another letter and then we tried to make plans. Miss Maddie just wanted to sell most of her things, rent single room somewhere, and live quietly on the money that remained. I wanted something better for her. She needed money, and I wondered how she, a lady, could earn some by teaching. She loved children, but she could not sing or draw or sew. Perhaps she could teach reading. No, when she read aloud, she had to cough before enough long word. Writing, her spelling was terrible. No, there was nothing she could teach the children of Crandford, I decided, except quiet goodness. Dinner was announced by Mother, still crying. Dear, brave Mother, she now spoke to 58 years old Miss Maddie as kindly as to a child, and she had gone out and bought eggs and butter with her own money to cook her something special. We did not talk much that afternoon, but when Mother brought our tea, I had an idea. Miss Maddie could sell tea. Tea was not dirty or heavy, and no shop window would be necessary, only a small sign. The one thing against my plan was the buying and selling involved. Miss Maddie would be in trade. Would she ever agree to that? Suddenly, we heard a noise on the stairs and some whispering. Then Mother came in and pulling a great tall young man who was red with shyness. Please, madam, he is only Jamham, said Mother, breathing hard. And please, madam, he wants to marry me immediately. And we want to rent a house and have just one quiet lodger to help us with the money. And dear Miss Maddie, will you be that lodger and stay with us? James wants it as much as I do. She turned to him. You stupid great thing. Why don't you speak? He wants the same as I do, but he is shy in front of lady, she explained. It's not that, said James. It's just that, well, I didn't expect to marry so soon. Mother moves so fast when she has an idea in her head. Mother pushed him with her elbow. Please, madam, don't listen to him. He asked me only last night to marry him, but I said I couldn't yet. So now he's just surprised at the suddenness of it. But you know, Jem, you want a lodger as much as I do. Another great push. Yes, he said. And I don't mind marrying mother, madam. You've never stopped asking me. Crying mother. And Now you are making me look silly in front of my mistress. Now, now, mother, said Jem, trying to hold her hand. It's just that a man needs time. He turned to Miss Matty. I always expected mother to be my wife one day, he said. I've great respect for everyone who's been kind to her, madam, and she's often said you are the kindest lady in the world. If you'd lodge with us, we'd try to make you comfortable. Miss Maddie had been very busy with taking off her glasses, wiping them and putting them on again. All she could say was, you mustn't hurry into marriage just because of me. Marriage is a very serious thing, but Miss Mary will think about your plan, I said quickly, and she can never forget your kindness. I'm very willing, madam, though I don't explain myself well, Jem replied. So, mother, my girl, he whispered, why do you go on crying and pushing me? Mother, annoyed, ran out of the room and was followed by her lover. Miss Mary then sat down and cried. The idea of mother marrying so soon was such a surprise, she said. She would never forgive herself if the poor girl hurried into marriage because of her. I think I was more sorry for James of the two. The next morning, very early, I received a mysterious note from Miss Poole commanding me to come secretly to her house at 11 o'clock. I went. The door was opened by Miss Poole's little maid in her Sunday clothes. Upstairs, in the drawing room, the table was covered with the best green card cloth, and there were writing materials on it. Miss Poole was dressed for visitors. Mrs. Forrester was already there, and then Mrs. Fitzadam appeared, red with walking and excitement. Miss Poole coughed. She arranged all of us at the table with me opposite her. Then she asked me if it was true that Miss Maddie had lost all her money. Yes, it's true, I said, and I never saw sadder faces than the three around me. I wish Mrs. Jamieson was here, said Mrs. Forrester. Mrs. Fitzadam clearly did not agree, and Miss Poole was not pleased. Even without Mrs. Jamieson, she said, we, the ladies of Crandford, can do something. She turned to me. Miss Smith, she continued. I was usually known as Mary. I talked privately yesterday afternoon to these ladies about what has happened to our friend. None of us was vulgarly rich, but we shall all be pleased, truly pleased, Mary, to give what we can to help Miss Matilda Jenkins. Here Miss Poole had to wipe her glasses. We wish, however, to give our little bits of money secretly in order not to hurt any feelings. This is why we asked you to meet us. Your father, we believe, is Miss Jenkins' advisor. We would like him to arrange for her to receive the money without knowing that it comes from us. Miss Poole looked around at the little assembly. And now, ladies, while Miss Smith considers how to reply, allow me to offer you some bread and butter. I did not reply very grandly. I just said that I would tell my father and began to cry. The ladies cried too, even Miss Poole. Mrs. Forrester was the first to speak again. I will write down what money I can give. I wish it was more, my dear Mary. Indeed I do. Now I saw why paper and pens had been put on the table. Every lady privately wrote down what she could give each year, signed her paper, and passed it to me. If the plan was accepted, my father would open the papers. If not, he would return them to their writers. I got up to leave, but each lady wanted to speak to me by herself. Miss Pooh had me in the drawing room to say she had heard that Mrs. Jamieson was coming home very displeased with her sister-in-law who was returning to Edinburgh that same afternoon. Of course, she could not say this in front of Mrs. Fitzadam, who, as Mr. Hawkins' sister, would not like to hear of anybody being angry about her brother's marriage. Downstairs, Mrs. Forrester was waiting. The poor old lady was trembling. She herself had less than £100 a year. She whispered, so she had only been able to promise Miss Mary £5 on her paper. She wished she was rich. She wished she could help dear Miss Mary more. And then Mrs. Fitzadam stopped me outside the house to say almost the opposite. She had no light to write down all she could afford and was ready to give. Miss Mary was such a fine young lady, she explained. When I was just a country girl coming to Crandford Market. One day, I remember I met her just outside the town. She was walking and a gentleman rode beside her and was talking to her. She was looking down at some flowers she had picked and I think she was crying, but she turned and ran after me to ask, oh so kindly, about my poor mother who was dying. Miss Mary was the rector's daughter, and it was such an honor that she spoke to me in that pretty way. So do please think how I can give her a little more without anyone knowing, my dear. And my brother will be her doctor for nothing. He and her ladyship are ready to do anything for her. We all are. I was so anxious to get home to Miss Mary that I made all kinds of promises. But Miss Mary had not missed me. She was busy preparing to leave her house, and I think she was pleased to do something. Whenever she thought about Mr. Dobson with his £5 note, she said she felt so dishonest. She was sure the bankers themselves must feel terrible. My father arrived next morning, and when we were alone, I told him about mother's plan and my meeting with Crandford ladies. My father brushed his hand across his eyes. See, Mary, he said, how a good life makes friends all around. I could write a sermon about it if I was the writer. He and I decided that if anyone agreed, Mother and Jem would marry as soon as possible and rent Miss Mary's house with the money given by the Crandford ladies. Then Mother could use whatever Miss Mary paid for her lodgings to make her comfortable. I told my father my idea that Miss Mary could sell tea, and he liked it. One of the rooms downstairs could become a shop, he said enthusiastically. It could have a glass door, and Miss Mary could sit behind a table. Miss Mary patiently accepted all we arranged. She even agreed to sell tea, though I doubt that I will do it very well, she said. I would so much rather sell sweets to children. Okay, then. It is Crandford, Chapter 8, True Friends. If you like my podcast, please like and subscribe my YouTube channel. Okay, see you next podcast. Bye bye.